another podcast with Advantage Athletic Therapy, and it's Braden. How are you today, Braden?
Not too bad. How about yourself?
Good, good. I want to take some time today because I wanted to talk about calf tightness and balance, but you brought up some really good points. So I kind of want to expand this and look at it from that early age on. Like when you're a runner or something, you get a little tightness, you got to stretch it back out in that calf. One of the things I saw early on was plantar fasciitis, and we'll talk about that too, and just how that affects your foot and the back of your leg, and sort of what you can do to prevent that. One of the things, and I wanted to get your opinion. Sorry, I've got so many questions. I want to get your opinion on this. I went to an ultra shoe, which is a zero drop,
Okay.
and I found that made a huge difference.
Well, big kind of thoughts in the shoe world is like, are we doing like a high heel, creating like that propulsionary effect? Are we going like the completely flat? Some people are going with the orthotics, no orthotics. Is it making a difference? And then it's just like, it's all about finding like what works for you. So I always recommend like trying things out. You have to kind of find what fits you the best, as opposed to just being like going online, being like, hey, this guy's doing that, I'm going to give that a shot. And
Right.
Different types of feet, definitely different solution.
Well, and you see people that'll just buy shoes because of the color and the name, not
That is
looking at
true,
what their
yes.
foot is. And then, as you go down that path, it takes a time too when you adjust. Like I found it was a big change going to a zero drop. It took a bit of time to get my foot used to that again, right after having a heel. But I did find that in the end, it a lot less calf tightness. I'm not sure if that was a contributing factor, and a wide toe box made a big difference. So in the aspect of running and those type of physical activities, do you see much of that calf tightness then? Do you guys get many calls on that?
Yeah, definitely. Calf, I would say if you took 100 people off the street and you kind of dug into especially lateral aspects of their calf, like it's going to be tight. Not very often do I work on somebody and it's just like, wow, you have really like great calves. There's no knots, there's no trigger points, everything's feeling good. That's because not a lot of people stretch as they should or do like soft tissue work. And then as we get older, we start to lose a little bit of range in our ankle, which kind of decreases our ability to naturally stretch those muscles. Like classic calf stretches, you're going to see somebody up against the wall, or you're going to see them like dropping their feet below parallel on a set of stairs. And if we can't get as far down, then we get less stretch through the muscle itself. So we definitely start to see that. And then it can have like some agonist effect with like muscles on the front. Could be an increase in shin splints. I actually had a patient in this week and we were talking about this. And then there's also other muscles through our ankle that are stabilizers, working on like the outside and the inside. So they kind of act as like a stirrup, keeping the foot from moving right to left. So we're thinking ankle sprains. And if those muscles are now tighter because we can't move our foot as well, we're prone to have not necessarily more ankle sprains, but certainly people will notice balance issues. And then other things that can contribute to that is like, what is our hydration levels like? And then, as you mentioned before, plantar fascia. If you think about our foot is similar to our hand, if this is our normal resting position, when we're relaxed, we're always like this. This is me not trying to open my hand. So
Right.
At night, our foot goes into this position, everything gets a little bit tighter. And if we're dehydrated, there's just not as much like pliability there. So those first steps in the morning and opening up, we feel a lot of that tension. And then plantar fascia kind of works through to the back of the heel and connects and blends with the Achilles. So tension there has a big influence on like what we're perceiving in the back of our calf.
Can the knee have any play in that as well if you have scar tissue buildup or anything like that?
Yeah, for sure. Actually, going into that ankle mobility, the long bone on the outside of our leg called the fibula, in order to get full dorsiflexion, which we would call like bringing our toes up, that bone has to actually translate forward at the top of the bone, and then at the bottom it's moving backwards. So it's like moving on a strut.
Oh, yeah.
So
Okay.
big orientation with what's going on in our knee, as that's a hamstring insertion point. So there's a lot of kind of factors there where it all kind of comes together.
When you mentioned earlier about just simple exercises, what's something, if you don't mind sharing, something that you could do every day if you're aging, and what you can do to sort of keep that flexibility?
Yeah, of course. And like stretching is great, strengthening is great as well. We need to kind of not just pick one or the other. We want to have a little bit of a combination of both. So like some simple ankle drills is like having your foot flat on the ground and having a towel underneath of it and just like scrunching and grabbing that towel and bringing it towards us. Doing some simple balance drills where you're standing on one foot. Start with no movement. If it feels too easy, swing your other leg that's moving or that's not moving. You can really challenge yourself by closing your eyes. You can stand on an unstable surface like a pillow or a folded towel, and just taking away some of those things makes us work a little bit harder for that to improve. And then any banded work, if you were to Google inversion or eversion of your ankle and just doing some work both ways there, super effective.
It's interesting because you don't really think about, and I totally agree with you. One of the things I never really thought about was my ankle strength. Like I always just, a broken ankle playing hockey, you know what I mean? You're always going to have that irritation, it seems like, that build up. But just, I can't remember, I think it was you guys a number of years ago that gave me some exercises actually for my ankles. Like I never really thought about that. Like you said, you're like, well, it's way down there. Why would I care? Right. But just that rotation and keeping the flexibility opened up so much more. And it was a simple thing. I think it was like every day or every other day, 10 minutes, right? Just something easy to keep going. And I think I used a ball at that time, just trying to feel that out, right?
Yeah, like rolling out the bottom of your foot, working through the plantar fascia for sure. And like you said with ankles, I would say probably 50% of the patients I see when I'm going through a general health history, like any injuries, this, and it's just like, I think I sprained my ankle when I was a kid, or I did that. So you can do it anywhere. You can do it stepping off a curb. You can step on something. It is a million ways to do it. And then, usually it gets better after a few weeks, kind of takes some time, but then if you're not going back to that and strengthening and stretching, then that's just more susceptible to further injury or re-injury.
And the ankles become such a critical part, like you said, as you age. All of a sudden, I was looking more at the calf, but you did bring that up. It's like that's where a lot of that balance issue would come as you age, correct?
Right, and then balance issue for sure, and then tie the ankle back into the calf. It's what we're seeing is a lot of people starting to play pickleball, right? Explosive movements, running forward, that back pedal, and then like quick change of direction. Then you're bursting. You're trying to reach for that ball, and like all that's driving through the calf. So if you don't have as much mobility there, more susceptible to strains for sure.
Probably the surface they're playing on too, right? And that's
hard surface, and then we're thinking about what's going on in the front of the leg there, and that's when it can translate into shin splints.
And another part with that would be the shoes, because I'm not sure that folks really recognize what kind of shoe would be the best for that.
There is those like kind of gummy looking hard court shoes, like you'll see a lot of volleyball players wear them. Those are a lot different than like your classic running shoe that you're going to be running on outside, and it does make a difference.
What's the biggest injury you see with pickleball right now then?
Oh, shoulders, but
shoulders.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow, yeah, I guess so, That motion again?
A lot of repetitive stuff, or like falling and like catching yourself and then jamming your shoulder. But have had a few calf strains, and then some shin splints, but definitely pickleball, it's usually shoulders.
And you did mention about stretching. Is it better in that calf situation to do a light warm up and then stretch? Like I see people that will just start stretching, and I've always been of the nature that, okay, do a nice brisk walk, get the legs ready, and then do a little stretch, and then go for your run.
I would always say, like you said, warm up a little bit, whether it be a walk or like a light jog, and do a dynamic warm up, like dynamic stretching. Don't just sit there and pull on your calves and do like a static stretch. That's actually going to lower your abilities for the next hour. So you want to finish.
Give the folks a different, an idea of what a dynamic stretch is, because I think a lot of people don't know what it is.
So that would be like, you'll see it in pretty much every professional sport where they're just kind of going back and forth. Start off with a jog, and then they're doing something like heel sweeps where they're putting their toes up and like running and like kind of sweeping their legs underneath, getting a little bit of the hamstrings, kind of doing lunges, doing some twists, doing some calf raises while they're like jog, calf raise, jog, calf raise. So they're just getting things moving, getting blood flowing, and then competing. And then afterwards, that's when you're sitting down for 10 minutes, doing those stretches, holding them for 30 to 45 seconds. And that's like your little bit of a cool down.
Cool. Yeah, this is a great topic. Well, I think down the road too, I will want to get into the ankle situation because we sort of touched on that with the calves today. It does make a lot of sense that that's, those two pieces contribute to sort of the situation we're talking about. I like that you sort of explained too that here's some things you could do, folks, at home. But if you do have a problem, call
Yeah,
Advantage, right?
always welcome to come in for sure.
And check it out because I think that's as at any age group, like you said earlier, when you're seeing a young person that maybe has had an ankle injury and they're recovering, that might get it done properly and do the exercises you're given because you don't want this when you're later on in life. You don't want that coming back to haunt you. Correct?
Exactly.
All right. Thanks for doing this. Have a great week, and we'll talk soon.
All right, sounds good. Have a good one.